Back when I was trying to piece together meaning in my life and struggling over the reality and implications of God's existence, I found the influence of secular culture causing the world to lack in many ways. The secular world provided too many intellectual challenges to be able to account for, and would have required of me to live in a way that's delusionally inconsistent with the way that I saw the world. I would have to ignore all the problems secularism posed and couldn't account for. I would essentially require of myself to have to forcibly not think about all the big tough questions. When I began being intellectually honest about the cracks in the worldview that I had been presupposing to be true, that secular stance that I had been conditioned by our culture to accept unquestioningly, then I was able to actually take a step back and see it as the flawed worldview that it is, for many reasons. I'll attempt to make it through the list that I made, briefly expanding on each point, but still trying to keep each one brief enough. So I'm willing to expand upon each point much further in future videos. Beginning with, what I noticed was people all around me struggled to find meaning in things and for themselves. When asked whether they think about the meaning and purpose of life, really 3/4 of people actually will say that they do often, or at least sometimes. But what are we actually asking when inquiring about the meaning of life? As a non-believing person, I had problems determining the purpose of my life, but people who rejected God's existence were generally quite okay with assigning meaning to their life. But in some sense, I could feel it, that the burden is too great to have to assign your own meaning to your life. It was too weighty and burdensome, for it always seemed fleeting or transient. I could never seem to find it. Every time I thought I'd find it, I'd soon realize that wasn't it at all, that I was all wrong. Often I'd think that I'd never find it. I was always trying to answer the what to the question, but when it comes to meaning in life, the most important questions begin with why. If, however, we have been designed by a creator God for a purpose that transcends our own limited desired perspective, we can begin to understand that it is a matter more than mere opinion. When we address the why questions, the what questions are much easier to answer. Another thing on my list that I noticed, people couldn't handle hardship very well. They raged because when something comes along to seemingly strip us of everything we've worked to accumulate in life, relationships mostly, but also materially, financially, and everything that we've made to make ourselves comfortable, and hardship or even death seemingly comes to forcibly take it all away. And if everything, even our relationships with others, that we would want to hang on to more than anything else, gets destroyed, then it disturbs us, it haunts us, and it drains our hope. Leading to another point, an inability to cope when confronted by death. What I often saw was an intense terror at the thought of death, that this was the only life that they had, and death was like a stalking shadow, intent on taking everything away from you. Resulting in people had little hope in order to face misfortune and challenges in life. When you have things like the suicide rate in America being at a 30-year high, modern people are feeling more hopeless, even when arguably our lives are more comfortable than ever before. How could this be? However, you can look at many scientific studies that will tell you the same thing. A sunny mentality and optimistic personality do not necessarily produce a better life. The kind of hope that we need is something deeper. Hope that stands up to and enables us to face the worst things in life depends on faith in something that transcends this world and this life. And it's not available to those living with a worldview that denies the supernatural. Which goes into the next point. Secularism offers no explanation for the supernatural. One would have to adamantly deny every instance of the observable supernatural that points to an answer beyond our physical reality. When shown these evidences, the response of the secularist is to give sorely unsatisfying answers, or to ignore it, or most often to go so far as to pretend that it's not even there. They don't like talking about these things. Examples of the supernatural in our everyday lives include things like miraculous healings that defy modern medical knowledge. Many of these exist. People who have had near-death experiences, people who have had out-of-body experiences, who have gained knowledge somehow of things that they could not possibly know, people who have been in either comatose or unconscious states and had unexplainable experiences. I had heard testimonies from people whose stories there was simply no easy answer for. I used only a few specific examples, but this is not even broaching the subject of many other instances of things that one could call supernatural or what can be defined as miracles. That's a whole topic in itself. So, if our brains are solely physical matter, things like these shouldn't be happening. There are many, many examples of these and other instances that are simply impossible to account for without acknowledging that something immaterial and non-physical exists beyond the world we can see. Going on to a new point, secularism, to me, seemed to lack a foundation for science and existence. A belief in a personal creator God may seem crazy, but it's the foundation on which science was built. The scientific method was developed by Christians because they believed in a rational creator who ran the universe according to rational principles. It's often argued by many brilliant people that science still rests best on a theistic foundation. Science can explain how some things in the universe came to be, but the scientific method of seeking natural causes for natural phenomena can't give us a first cause. Atheism struggles to explain why there is a universe at all, or why the universe follows rational laws observable to us. If the success of science points us anywhere, it's to theism. And I'll continue with more points in the next one.